Welcome in, everybody, to the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I'm Alec Etheridge, and we're here again. Another season. It's game week. The excitement is built up. 6:45, 7 o'clock on a Monday morning here, and I think the adrenaline's kicking in a little bit already for us. I know you had a late night getting back into town last night, Andrew, but here we are, game week. The excitement's got to be there. You got to be built up and ready to go this year.
I've been looking forward to this moment for weeks. We finally get to have games on the docket that we can actually talk about. The hype cycle is over. The preseason cycle is almost over. And we now have live football and volleyball games to look forward to this week. Of course, right here, we've got a dozen football games that we're going to be breaking down. And it's looking like a really fun week one slate.
Yep, we got new microphones. People can actually hear us this year. We won't have any wind issues. So taking steps in the right direction from our show standpoint, too. We got a bunch of good sponsors back on board that you'll hear about throughout the show that make it possible as well. So excited about that. But we got a big season ahead. We got a big opening week this week, or this to start this year as well. Briarwood, Oak Mountain. We're out here at Briarwood Christian School to shoot the opening show of the season with our game of the week. And we've got 2 Thursday night matchups. So a lot of fun to look forward to this week.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of something for everybody in this slate, and I'm really curious to see just how each of these teams manage their preseason expectations and go into the season looking to make the strongest statement possible.
Yeah, we've had all off-season to build up. You've been working hard on the football magazine and the work that went into that. So you hear about all these teams, and now it's finally time to strap it up, buckle up the chin straps, get out there and take care of business. And so I'm excited to hear your standpoint throughout the show and learn a little bit more about each of these teams after all the research that you've done in the off-season. And I know these players also are excited to get going this season as well. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about all of our games this week, 12 total to talk about, 2 on Thursday night. Our game of the week right here at Briarwood. That's the one we're going to start with as the Briarwood Lions host the Oak Mountain Eagles. Our first game of the week of the 2025 high school football season, and it's going to be a fun 280 area rivalry. These two teams separated by just a couple of miles right here on Highway 119 in North Shelby County. It's going to be Briarwood hosting Oak Mountain. A lot to learn about both of these teams this year and the expectations that they're going to have. Oak Mountain takes a leap forward last year from year one under Shane McComb. Briarwood started 0-5 last year, finished the season with 5 straight wins and one of the strongest teams in 5A at the end of last season. So I think both of these teams have high expectations going into this year. Andrew, I'm going to get your thoughts here in just a second on each of these teams, starting with Oak Mountain. But first, we've got to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control, who's going to be sponsoring the Oak Mountain Eagles during our show this season. While the Oak Mountain Eagles are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmental safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear, and our affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take a bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES-1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. So, Andrew, talk to us a little bit about this Oak Mountain team. You've seen this program a little bit up close. We saw their jamboree action this past week where starters played decent. Their depth showed some experience as well, or got some experience as well in that jamboree game. But take us through this Oak Mountain team and the expectations of what they've got coming back this year.
Definitely. There seems to be a lot of excitement around this Oak Mountain team solely because of a lot of what they have been building inside of this building. Their numbers are a little up compared to what they have been in the past. Feels like the depth is starting to develop a little bit as well. And this team just overall has a confidence that I feel like has been missing within the past few years, and especially since before Shane McComb came. This is the most excited I feel like Oak Mountain has been in a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing if that translates over onto the field into some improved results. Obviously, the biggest thing that Oak Mountain will have to replace is Will Odell, one of the most dynamic offensive athletes in all of Class 7A. He was a huge rushing and passing threat for them, and Oak Mountain will obviously need to replace his dynamic athleticism at the quarterback position if they will want to succeed this year. And to do that, they're going with a sophomore, the same they did when they had Will Odell come in as a sophomore a few years ago after Evan Smith's graduation. Charlie Vaccarello will be taking the reins as a sophomore, won a 3-way quarterback battle over the summer. And he's impressed in his time with the Eagles. kind of came in a little bit last year and started to learn the system a little bit. Has now really taken what the team says is a leadership role coming in just as a sophomore, which is amazing to see out of an underclassman quarterback. Obviously, may have some growing pains in the start of the season, especially with a little bit of a new look receiving core. But I think if this passing game comes along, they do have a really strong running game back there with Marty Myricks going into his third year as a starter. So just overall, a lot of experience on this Oak Mountain offense, and even on the defense as well. Lots of really good starters coming back there. And in particular, Jaden Aparicio-Bailey, one of the top-ranked safeties in the entire country, patrolling the back of that defense for Oak Mountain. Plenty more athletes like Colby King, JC Schwinder, looking to get some reps for this team and making some big plays as well. This team really as a whole is going to look to stop a lot of offenses with their defense, coming in with a new defensive coordinator and a renewed approach to just stop the big plays that really hampered this team last year. There's a lot of chunk yardage and a lot of big touchdowns that really flipped a lot of these games from being really close into ones that Oak Mountain would eventually lose. So this team is a lot closer to a winning record than I think most people are expecting. But it's really going to come down to can the pass game recover and can this defense get some more stops?
Yeah, I think staying healthy is another big component of that, the depth that they're going to have as well. It's a brutal schedule, as all of them are in Class 7A Region 3. But they're home games. They've got a lot of big home games this year, and if they can make some noise early in the season, get some confidence with a win over Brierwood, that's going to be helpful for them as well. And speaking of Brierwood, we shift on to them, hear a little bit about that team. Before we talk about Brierwood, we got to tell you about 3D Air Services, who you heard a lot about last year on the show. They'll be sponsoring the Brierwood Lions throughout our taped and live Friday night shows as well this year. Since 2005, 3D Air Services has proudly called Shelby County home, and they're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. From keeping your home comfortable year-round to sponsoring local schools and athletic programs, they're committed to making a difference in our community. Just ask your neighbor. Chances are they've already been there. As proud sponsors of the Briarwood Lions, 3D Air Services believes in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit values they'll carry with them in every job they do. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable one home at a time. And talk about being comfortable at home. That's what Briarwood's going to hope for on Friday night as the Lions welcome Oak Mountain in this rivalry battle. Tell us a little bit about this Briarwood team, a team that last year finished so strong. Do they have enough coming back that can build off of the success they had in the second half last year?
Well, so it's funny that you mentioned that finish. Obviously, this team's going to be really motivated to get one back. I've already talked to some of the players. They really want to get one back on their rival, especially because that was how they kicked off that 0-5 stretch to start the season. Luke Reynolds did play in this game a year ago, but his absence marked a lot of that 0-5 stretch and that 5-0 turnaround. Obviously, a lot of other factors go into that. But being able to get a dynamic run game going was really what helped this team get over the edge and into one of the scariest opponents in really all of Alabama down the stretch last year. But obviously, Luke Reynolds graduated on to Jacksonville State now, and his absence will definitely be felt on both ends of the field since he played both ways, but particularly at running back. Now, they do have a couple of options now in Jackson Ryer and Eli Thompson, who will be kind of splitting reps as the season goes on. But replacing a dynamic athlete like that is always so hard. And I don't want to say the Lions have the work cut out for them because they've obviously been very good at developing talent and having a next man up mentality. But that's really going to be one of the storylines coming into this season. Elsewhere on the offense, I do feel really good about Briarwood's passing game for the first time in a little bit of a time, particularly since Christopher Vizina graduated. I think now you have a second-year starter in Charles Dedman. I stopped by practice last week, was really impressed by some of the throws he was making, and he's got a really good receiving core on him as well. Dane Whitehead comes in with some experience on him. Tram Walker looks like a really dynamic athlete, and there's just a lot of really good pieces around him that I think if this team relies on some very key offensive line pieces and is able to protect the quarterback very well, they're going to have some time to make some big plays through the air. But obviously when you talk about Briarwood, you got to talk about the defense, and that's going to be the strength of this team. Once again, Garrett Witherington, a Kentucky commit, leading up the team up front, handling that defensive tackle role. He's going to be an absolutely athletic beast back there, and a big playmaker up front for this team. You pair that with a strong secondary with guys like Sam Canale, Brooks Allred leading the linebacker room. This is just a really good team with a lot of experienced playmakers and a lot of players who are looking to step up into bigger roles within a defense that has just always been historically very sound, very disciplined, and incredibly well coached with one of the best linebackers in state history.
Yeah, I think we're going to see two teams in this game that are a little bit improved last year. I think the biggest question marks for both, you mentioned it, quarterback at Oak Mountain, running back at Brierwood. That was the identity of both teams from an offensive standpoint last year. So that's what I'm most excited to see in this game is how they answer that question mark in the first game of the season. I think both defense is going to look strong in this opener, but that big question mark of running back for Briarwood, quarterback for Oak Mountain, to me, the biggest question going into this game. So, Andrew, your closing thoughts on this game and what you're excited to see when we see these two face off on Friday night.
Well, obviously, last week, Oak Mountain dealing with a little bit of offensive line problems with no Bradley Hazlip. In the Oxford game, obviously, we'll have to see how that injury goes going into this Briarwood game. But overall, I think that these two teams, with their improvements on defense, I think it's going to be a very defensive-first battle, especially as these offenses kind of work to find their identities a little bit more so than the defense. So I'm expecting a little bit of a closer scoring game. I'd say I'd put the over-under right at around 35. And I think that both these teams will be fighting very hard to get this one, and it could come right down to the wire. I think Briarwood just gets a couple more stops in the end, and I think that will pivot their way.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a very physical game, which I love to see early in the season. Defense is typically ahead of where offenses are at this point in the year, and I think you're going to see two teams wanting to run the football heavily. So I think you'll see a couple of explosive plays, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, but I expect a low-scoring battle, physical battle between these two, and the schedule doesn't get much easier for either one of them. I mean, Briarwood right after this got Homewood, Ramsey, and Carver, and then right after that they've got Winona and Leeds. So the schedule for Briarwood's brutal after this, and we all know what Oak Mountain faces with Class 7A Region 3. So this is a huge chance and opportunity for both of these teams to boost their momentum and their confidence early in the season, and we'll see how that unfolds right here on Friday night between these two 280 area rivals. One of our first games of the season, this Thursday night, we get to see the defending Class 7A state champions, the Thompson Warriors, who won their 5th state championship in the last 6 years. Unbelievable what this program continues to do year in and year out under head coach Mark Freeman, and I expect another big year from them again this year, Andrew. In just a second, we're going to hear your breakdown of this year's team and yet again the amount of talent that they have on both sides of the ball. But first, I want to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control, who's going to be sponsoring Thompson's portion of the Shelby County High School football show this year. And while the Thompson Warriors are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear and affordable. Mosquito Plus program and their affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take the bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. So, Andrew, when you look at this Thompson team, they got a star quarterback back. They got some star receivers coming back, really their top 3 receivers from last year back this year. There's some question marks when you look at the running back position, the offensive line, but still some talent there as well. And then over on the other side of the ball, it may be the most doubt we've had in the defense. I won't say doubt. The most they've lost going into the season on the defensive side, but yet they've still got Division I players and Power 4 players all over the defense too. So walk me through that and still how much talent this team has coming back this year.
Yeah, let's start over on the offensive side, because it's funny when you look at this from a year ago. Last year we were walking into the season with obviously a lot of confidence in Trent Seaborn as quarterback, a lot of confidence in the running back room with both Mike Dujon and AJ Green back. But the biggest question we were all asking is, who's Trent Seaborn going to throw to? Because he came into the last season having lost his top 3 receivers, and then you come into this season and that receiving core is completely intact, and will be for the next couple of years, which is an absolutely insane thing at the Class 7A level. But it just really goes to show you how good this team is at getting players to a top level and getting them developed very quickly. And you just look at this receiving core top to bottom; it's absolutely phenomenal. You had Darian Mosley step up as the big target guy. He really stepped up, especially down the stretch. Made a lot of great plays in that state title game to win the MVP for that game. And then you saw a little bit of the deep ball coming back as the season went on, and that really kind of coincided with Dedrick Kimbrough's promotion to the main starting lineup. He was an absolute beast down the stretch. Got a lot of really good power forward looks over the course of the offseason. And so he'll definitely be a big name to watch as well. And then Price Lewis kind of just made some big plays over the course of the season, really brings something different to its receiving core as kind of that speedy, shiftier guy that this team is obviously like. You think about guys like Ryan Peppins in the past. This team really likes having some good, fast receivers that they can get the ball to. And I think that Price Lewis is destined for another really big season as well. But you mentioned a little bit of doubt in the running back room. I actually have a lot of confidence in this one, having looked at everybody. And with R.J. Evans stepping into the lead back role, I think he did a phenomenal job as the season went on last year, just really taking the reins of that number 2 role within the system. Now it's his team. Now it's going to be his backfield to carry, and I really do expect him to come into that position well. And then you have a newcomer and an experienced guy named KJ Chapman. Obviously his first season with the Warriors, but coming in with some experience under his belt, I think he'll slide right in and be very equipped to take the carries alongside a guy who has experience in the system in R.J. Evans. A few questions up front, but I think overall it's a team that tends to address those offensive line concerns as the season goes on. And by the end of the season, I do expect this to be another dangerous and scary Thompson offense.
Yeah, it's an offense that's going to be arguably the best in the state. You look around the state, they've got the key playmakers to make it happen. And this is a team last year that was challenged. That state championship path didn't come without its share of blemishes in the regular season, with 3 overtime losses by 1 point in all 3, which is something I've never seen before. And so they were challenged at times last year, but they answered and responded, and they clicked when it mattered most in the postseason. That defense was dominant all season long from start to finish, and that's something I expect to continue into this season as well.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you look across the entire team, 3 of the biggest players they lost all going on to Auburn, and that just speaks to the talent that they had across the board, but particularly on the defensive side, you have a couple of award winners in Jared Smith and Anquan Fagans, both leaving this team. Obviously, huge voids that they will have to fill over the course of the season, but I do like their next men up with that. The defensive line looking as strong as ever. Cam Pritchett going to continue to be a big playmaker off of the edge. I expect him to have a phenomenal season where he's going to be shouldered with a lot of the load of getting into the backfield. But they also have an out-of-state transfer coming in Ami Moala, who just committed to UNC and is looking pretty good so far. So I expect both of them, along with some of the other guys up front, Noah Streeter, to really take command and lead this team from up front. Even though you lose your defensive line coach in Woodrow Briggs, a lot of his guys still in that building, still making plays for the Warriors. And then you just keep going back. Just a really strong linebacking group as well. And then you look at the secondary as well. Guys like Micah Fleming, one of the fastest guys in the state, placed top 6 in state track. This is going to be a really good team with a lot of strength all around. And I think a lot of these players who you might not recognize their names overall right now, I think they're going to rise to that standard and really grow into their roles as defensive playmakers.
And you look at this Game 1 matchup, a Thursday night, it's the kind of game you want to start the season. You're challenging yourself with Carver Montgomery. And this is a team that when you look at the other challenging region in Class 7A, Region 2, Carver missed out on the playoffs last year, and they were right in the thick of everything. They only lost 3 games, and 2 of those by 5 or less. And when you look at that region with the likes of Central Phoenix City and Auburn and others, it's a challenging region, and Carver was right in the mix last year for arguably a top 2 seed in that region, yet they missed the playoffs. So that shows how challenging that region is, like Region 3. But this is a team that's physical, athletic, and fast, and they're going to bring that to the table. So, Andrew, let me get your closing thoughts when you look at this Thompson-Carver-Montgomery matchup and what it means for these two teams to start the season.
Yeah, obviously, like you just said, this was a Carver team that I thought was a top 10 team last year. I thought they were very, very good and really should have made the playoffs coming out of that region. They gave a lot of the really good teams that came out of the region a lot of stuff to think about and a lot of challenges to deal with this team. But obviously, they've had a lot of changes over the offseason. Coach leaving for Prattville, bringing in a new guy in Mario White to lead this program. And then you lose a couple of Power 4 commits who were some of your biggest athletes across the board this team, including a receiver heading to Texas A&M. And I think overall their biggest challenge is going to be to replace those playmakers. But you've got a lot of depth on this team, strengthened by that merger with Sidney Lanier from a couple of years ago. And this team is going to be looking, like you said, to be very physical, out with something to prove, and to make a statement overall. While on paper this looks like the weakest of the 3 non-region matchups, that's really more of a compliment to Clay Chalkville and Grayson than it is saying about Carver Montgomery. So I expect a good test for the Warriors out of the gate. But I think this offense is on another level right now, and we'll start to show it over the course of this game. Defense, kind of like we mentioned, might be working in a little bit, but I think this offense is going to be good enough out of the gate to set the tone and really lead the way for this team to get a solid win.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a strong defensive performance in this game. I think it may be a week or two later that the defense has its first test of really are they going to be as strong as they've been the last couple of years. But offensively, they should have as much success as they want to have the entire year. What it depends on is how cute are they going to get in this game. Do they open up the air attack with that strong passing dynamic, or do they try to find that run game early in the season, which Freeman is known for doing, is building that pass off of the run. So to me, I think they're going to come out, try to establish a run game early in this game, get that offensive line going early in the season, and then build the pass off of that. But regardless, if it doesn't work, they're going to be throwing that football around the yard with all the talent that they have at receiver. So a great early season test for the defending state champions as they look to kickstart another state championship, hopeful state championship run in what I think we both agree is going to be an even more challenging Region 3 in Class 7A this year. Well, the Spain Park Jaguars coming off one of their best years in school history. They've had some really strong seasons over the course of their time, but last year, their first ever 10-0 regular season. This is a team that was clicking on all cylinders in Class 6A and a legitimate state championship contender, and to see what they did was impressive. And now they've got some key pieces back, especially at the quarterback position that you're going to hear about from Andrew here in just a second ahead of this game against Sparkman on Friday night. But first, we've got to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control, who's going to be sponsoring the Spain Park's portion of the show this season. And while the Spain Park Jaguars are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear, and our affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take today and take the bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES-1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. So, Andrew, the Spain Park team, they return quarterback Brock Bradley. That's the key focal point of this entire team. They are going to lose some key pieces on the offensive side of the football as well. But overall, there's a lot of optimism. There's a reason this team's a preseason top 5 team in Class 6A. So give me a quick rundown on why that's still the case going into this year.
I think it's the case for 2 reasons. I think, one, you have a lot of good defensive playmakers back. You got Joe Cross in the secondary. You got E.J. Curley up at linebacker. Really solid defensive line as well. It's a defense that as a whole didn't really lose a whole much from last year. And it was a defense that was very solid, especially down the stretch. You saw the way they stifled opponents like Chelsea and really came into their own towards the tail end of the regular season. Had a little bit of struggles first couple rounds of the playoffs, but I think really got their feet under them and came into their own when they needed to. It's a very underrated group as a whole, and I expect it to continue to be a physical playmaking part of this team. But like you said, Brock Bradley is back, and you tend to inspire a lot of confidence in your offense when you have a future Power 4 guy at quarterback in Brock Bradley, and I would stack him up with just about pretty much anybody. I'm shocked he's not a 4-star yet. I do think his arm talent is among the best that I've ever seen, and his football IQ is absolutely off the charts. He knows how to make the smart plays. He knows how to make the big plays, and you throw a couple weapons around him, he's the kind of guy that makes a lot of offenses better, and that's what's going to make him successful going into his third year as a starter with the Jags. And you look at those receiving weapons around him, obviously you've got some high-profile losses from this team, but you get a high-profile transfer coming in Ken Arrigo, coming in from Tuscaloosa Academy. He's a guy who's been generating a lot of chemistry with Brock Bradley, and I know I've mentioned it before, but I saw him last year when they played Vincent, Tuscaloosa Academy did, and he was just making absolutely huge plays. He looked the part of an all-state receiver at the 2A level, and I saw a lot from him that really makes me confident that he could be an all-state guy at the 6A level as well, especially getting the bulk of the catches. Obviously, he won't be alone. He's got guys like Mason McClure around him as well. But look for that Bradley-Rigo connection to be absolutely money for this team this year.
When you talked about how smart Bradley is as well, one of the things, his counterpart in Trent Seaborn over at Thompson, one of the things that's always stuck out about him to me was as an 8th grader what he was able to do. And you're not going to have as strong of arm strength at that age as some of the other quarterbacks, especially the upperclassmen, but his ability to read the defense. And that's what Brock Bradley does as well. He's able to read the defense. He knows exactly where to go with the football before the play even starts. And then if it's not there once it does start, he knows how to find his check down and where to go with the football. So that's what impresses me about him. So even though you lose a star receiver like Corey Barber, that's what helps this offense continue to go and move forward in the right direction this year, because you do have 3 or 4 receivers that are going to be in the right spot, and he knows where they're going to be.
Absolutely.
And so that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that he's continued to grow over the course of the years as well. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of early prospects just start out strong and then flame out because they either can't make the adjustments or can't grow beyond kind of what their early peak has been. And you look at those 2 quarterbacks, and they've been very strong in that regard. But I think this team's going to have a lot of strengths coming into this matchup against Sparkman. This was a matchup they won absolutely handily last year, setting the tone on both offense and defense, making a couple big plays back there. Was Joe Cross. I expect him to have some opportunities to get some stuff back in the pass game as well. But one big question that's going to need to be addressed for the Spain Park team in this game is the run game. You lose both of your main running backs last year, and the guys coming in, very young and very inexperienced. It's going to be a massive running back by committee. Nick McKissick's going to kind of be sort of a lead back for them, but it's going to be three guys kind of rotating snaps a little bit more evenly, at least to start out the year. So I really want to see who emerges as that playmaking back. Obviously, you have a lot of really good talent up front on the offensive line, including a potential Power 4 guy in Hudson Reed. And this team is really going to have to find that identity quickly, because next week you got Hoover at home, and that is going to be an absolute dogfight, one that the Bucs are going to come in motivated to win after last year with the Jags getting the win at the Met, and one of the most physical and entertaining matchups of the season. You're going to want to make sure that you are clicking on all cylinders for that. I think Coach Vakakis is going to have this team in a good mentality, framing this week and making sure they get enough out of it, especially without a jamboree, to be able to come into next week with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, Hoover's going to be really good this year. I have high expectations for them, and you'll hear more about that matchup next week too. But this week, this is a game that Spain Park won big last year, 38-7. I expect a similar outcome this year. The offense should be able to work enough in with the running backs and the offensive line, and that pass game should be clicking early in the season. So expect a big week from Spain Park, easing back into the season this year and setting the stage for what's going to be a monumental week 2 before region play kicks off here in a couple of weeks with that Spain Park-Hoover battle next week. But for the time being, it's Spain Park hitting the road up north to take on Sparkman this week for that long road trip. We'll see if the Jags can come home with a victory. It's year 4 for Todd Cassidy at Chelsea High School, and the Hornets looking to continue to take strides and head in the right direction, coming off one of their best starts last year in school history, a 6-0 start, which was enough in the early portion of the season to lock up a playoff spot. And this team, they showed a lot of promise last year, and they've got one of their key returners back this year at the running back position. And when you look at that, Andrew, give us a breakdown of that position for Chelsea and how it's going to be key as they go into this home matchup with Charles Henderson to kick off the season, but also what else they've got around the team surrounding that position.
Yeah, last year this Chelsea team was very run heavy and they rode that to success, and I think that's going to be the case once again this year. You got an all-county back in the backfield in Chase Malone after a really strong season last year where he was just an absolute workhorse back there, being able to get the yards after contact and stretching those gains into first downs and big plays. He's going to absolutely set the tone for this team once again. But you got a guy back there as well in Morgan Barnes who's paired really well as a number 2, and then you got Adam Wheeler coming in as an H-back. You put that behind a few guys on the offensive line getting some college looks in Adam Brooks and Brooks Dixon, and then just a really good, solid front 5 overall. This team is going to be dictated on the ground once again, and I think they're going to be strong in that regard once again. But this team's ceiling is really going to come down to whether that pass game can develop. And while there's some potential there, there's also some question marks there. Even going into this matchup, Coach Cassidy is still working through a 3-way quarterback battle between Logan Strunk, Grant Probst, and Hudson Picklesheimer, trying to find the guy who's going to be that guy for them. Obviously, he's comfortable starting multiple guys, and I think in this matchup, especially against the Charles Henderson team, that they are head and shoulders better than. I think that they're going to see some time for each guy to get some work against a live defense and really kind of answer some questions ahead of the next few weeks of the season. But being able to just figure out that position overall is going to be really solid for them because you got guys like Turner Simpson who are able to just absolutely make big plays at receiver. I think overall this receiving core is a step above where it was last year. And I think if they have a quarterback who's able to take advantage of that, you're not going to see them fall into some of the same pitfalls last year where they were a little more one-dimensional. And when they faced some strong run defenses, it was easier for them to be neutralized.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what they put together offensively. We know how physical they're going to be. It's a hard-working team. That's what worked well for them early last year, and it's what should work well in this matchup against the Charles Henderson team that finished 5-4 last year against a pretty easy schedule and ultimately had to forfeit their wins at the end of the season as well. So I give Chelsea an edge and an advantage in this one. I think they're going to come out with a physical approach, a fast start to the season. But interested in your thoughts on how you think this one's going to go.
Absolutely. I think this one is going to see Chelsea dictate the tempo on the ground, really start to establish this matchup from the early moments, and be able to both lead from a long distance across this game and answer a lot of the question marks they have just by facing some live opponents with that. I do want to say I'd be remiss to not mention that I'm very high on this defense, and I think that they have a lot of really good, talented pieces there. You have 2 of the best linebackers in the entire county, and Porter Schott and Briston Hardy leading that defense. And then you've got an extremely experienced secondary led by Sam Parrish. And while you lose a Sanford guy in Romello Cooper up front, I think Aiden Young is next up and really able to make some plays for them off the edge. So a lot of really good playmakers here, a very solid, sound core that I think the defense is really going to set the tone in a lot of games, and I expect them to absolutely set the tone here in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think both sides of the ball are going to have their strengths this year, and I think it leads to another pretty good start for Chelsea this season. That's going to start this Friday night against Charles Henderson on their home field. I expect them to, especially the running back position, Chase Malone is going to do a good job really early in the season of taking some pressure off of that quarterback battle and trying to figure out who your starter is going to be long term. And I think you're going to see that strength early in this game and continue over from what we saw last year. So expect good things again early in the season from the Chelsea Hornets. After a 1-9 season last year, we usher in the Ross Newton era at Pelham High School this year as the Panthers look to rebound and bounce back from some struggles a year ago. And I don't know about you, Andrew, I'm going to be pretty high on this team just looking at some of the preseason research and some of the names that are coming back. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts here in just a second. But first, we got to tell you about 3D Air Services, who are going to be sponsoring the Pelham Panthers on this year's high school football show. Since 2005, 3D Air Services is proudly called Shelby County home. They're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. From keeping your home comfortable year-round to sponsoring local schools and athletic programs, they're committed to making a difference in our community. Just ask your neighbor. Chances are they've already been there. As proud sponsors of the Pelham Panthers, 3D Air Services believes in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit, values they carry with them in every job they do. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home at a time. So, Andrew, quick walkthrough of the depth and experience that this Pelham team is going to have. I know last year the struggles were there, 1-9, but they showed some promise early in the season. This offense was actually really good, other than the season opener against Pell City. So we'll be looking for them to shore that up early this year. But the offense was good. It was the defense really that struggled continually throughout the season. This year, I think both sides of the ball have some key playmakers that can change that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really optimistic about this team coming into this year because a lot of the playmakers that were defining last year's team were very young. So while they were making plays, they still had a lot of room for growth and improvement. And I think over the course of this offseason, you bring in a new coaching staff led by Ross Newton, a career assistant who has had a lot of experience at the college level, decades of experience across Samford and then Gus Malzahn's staffs at Auburn and UCF. This is a guy who knows what it takes to get it done at the highest level and has brought a new standard of professionalism and really just a lot of talent surrounding this team. It's now really down to the players to make the most of that and really reach their true potential, which I think is a lot higher than a lot of people are expecting. You got a second-year starter in Dylan Smith, and while he's learning a little bit of a new offense with an offensive coordinator in Austin Gray coming in from McAdory, this is an offense overall that's going to be a little bit more tailored to him and expect him to make some good decisions that he's been working on over the course of the offseason. So I really do expect him to step up into another role as a quarterback leader for this team. And then you got guys around him like Tristan Darden and Jacob Gibbs and a plenty of junior receivers on this team who are going to be there making those plays for him at receiver. A good mix of talent there who can do a lot of different things. So I'm very optimistic about that. And then you got a guy coming back into the system in Tristan Rutledge. Spent a year over at John Carroll, now is back where he started with Pelham. And I think that experience for him now coming into this lead back role is going to be very, very good for him. The question really is the offensive line going to be able to protect Smith to allow him time to make those decisions and open up those holes for Rutledge? Because having time to make both of those is what's really going to take this offense over the top and into the next level.
Yeah, this was a team last year that struggled from a pass protection standpoint and a run blocking standpoint. The offensive line, one of the big keys for this team this year. The defense, the other big key. You look early in the season, they scored 33 or more in 3 of their first 5 and 20 or more in 4 of the first 5, but the defense gave up 35, 38, 36, 35, and the one offsetter with 14. So the defense really struggled, as did the offensive line last year. So those two key pieces coming together, playing consistent football at the same time is going to be, to me, the sole key for Pelham's success this year. And that starts in game 1 with Pell City, a game they lost 35-7 last year. Andrew, how do you see this one going this year?
Quite frankly, this team is going to need to get more stops against Pell City than it did last year in order to walk away with this one. It's a Pell City team that has a lot of momentum under Coach Nick Gentry. And I do think it's a very good matchup overall talent-wise. I think both of these teams are kind of around the same level. So I'm expecting a lot closer of a matchup than last year. But I think this defense is going to need to take the biggest step in order to be able to pull out this win. I think this team has a lot of ground to make up from last year, so I do lean Pell City in that regard. But I would not be surprised if Pelham walks away with the victory here. They're just going to have to really prove it on both an offensive and defensive side, but especially on the defense, because you look at those games last year where they scored enough to be able to beat guys like Chelsea, like Calera, but it was the defense that just allowed so many points in return that those wins slipped into losses.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see an improved defense, and they don't have to improve a ton. They just need to improve maybe 5 points a game, 10 points a game, and they're going to be in good shape paired with what they've got offensively. I think this is a great opportunity for them. You don't have to win this game, but showing some progression, because we saw what they could do after this game, even after a 35-7 loss last year. So some progressive steps in game 1, and then I think you see Pelham possibly steal a few games here early in the season that people may not expect them to win. So big opportunity for the Pelham Panthers on their home field to open the season against Pell City. Well, the experiment of bringing Scott Riles in to lead this Calera program went well last year. This was a team 2 years ago that was 0-10 coming into the season off of a late coaching change. Well, last year they bring in Riles, and this team finished 3-7, and we saw a lot of positive improvement, especially on that offensive side of the football last year. So, Andrew, do you expect this team to continue to take the next step forward this year? And if so, why? If not, why? But in doing that, give us a rundown of this team's roster and what we can expect this year.
I do think this team is going to be better than last year, but they're going to have to prove it in some aspects, starting with that defense, which I do expect to take a step forward. But it's going to be how big of a step forward to really make the difference between this team challenging for the playoffs and sitting about where they were last year within this region. They bring in a new defensive coordinator in Edwin Jackson, and they have some decent pieces back on the defense as well who can make some plays for them and get those stops if necessary. But it's really going to be about the number of stops that this team makes, getting off the field quickly and then giving the offense some more time to work. I really do think that this defense has a lot of potential, but it's really going to be what dictates this team overall, because it's what dictated this team last year a lot. Really, their biggest key overall was losing that turnover battle in so many games, giving up interceptions on offense and not getting enough back on the defensive side to flip the field. And over the course of the season, that really got them out of some games that they really could have had a shot in, but were ultimately hampered in that regard. Obviously, another big question for them being on the offensive side, how do you replace A.J. Johnson? Because even though it was a little bit of a roller coaster at times, when he made the big plays, they were absolutely incredible. And that deep connection is going to be what's missing this year. But kind of like I alluded to earlier, I think the key for this team overall is to just get the basics right. Win that turnover battle early, play clean offense, get some plays on defense, and then use that to build momentum and really see what this team can do.
Yeah, they're going to have athletes. Calera's always got athletes. Their biggest problem has always been balancing that across the board, having a fair balance across the entire offense against across the entire defense. They're going to have them on the field. The question mark is, are they spread out enough, and is there enough depth? That's the problem they faced at the 6A level the last several years, is having that depth and that spread out balance on both sides of the ball. But this team, 38.2 points per game last year they gave up defensively. That was their big weakness because, like you said, Johnson was strong from a quarterback standpoint. They made some explosive plays, and they were in some games a lot of people didn't expect them to be in last year because that offense was able to play at another level at times, but the defense continually made mistakes. And the offense, as good as they were, turnovers were costly for them last year as well. So I think that defense just taking a step in the right direction, kind of like we just talked about with Pelham. It doesn't have to be a huge step, just a positive step in the right direction is going to be important. And then obviously you're going to have to find a way for that offense to be as talented as it was last year, despite the loss of your best playmaker on that side of the football. They open up on the road at Northridge, a game they lost 30-27, and I think that was a game right off the bat last year. I don't know that we had a lot of confidence Calera was going to win that game, and they were within 3 points. So another opportunity this year for them to really get some confidence early in the season. Is that something you can see them doing in this matchup?
I absolutely think so. I think that the improvements that they needed to make from this matchup last year to this year were very small, and I think that this team has made enough gains to be able to get this one overall. I am interested in how the offense performs in this one too, because you've got a transfer quarterback coming in Jordan Ward, who, while he's relatively new to this team, got a year of experience last year at the 5A level at Montevallo, came in January and has been working with this team, gaining chemistry with the receivers. He's got a solid receiving core, all things considered, especially when you look at some of the pieces that they lost as well. But I think this team is going to be able to pace the ball on the ground as well with a guy in Jordan Henderson, who was the number 2 guy last year behind Demetrius Davis, but has shown a lot of potential, and I think he's going to be a good, safe option in the backfield as well. So I think this offense is going to be a little bit more diverse than last year, and if they're able to play a little bit cleaner than last year, pair that with some defensive improvements, I think they're able to get it done in this one.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them to get some confidence early in the season. Big things I'll be looking for in this matchup is the defense improved. Are they going to look better this year, and what they're going to be from an identity standpoint on the offensive side of the football. This was a pretty good Northridge team at the end of the year last year, finished 7-4 too. So for Calera to have challenged them a year ago was a positive sign. And I think being year 2 under Scott Riles, this team's going to continue to progress. So excited to see what the Calera Eagles put out there this year. Great opportunity here in Game 1. Montevallo's step into the 5A world last year was a challenging one as they finished the season 1-9 a year ago, but it's a fresh start this year. Now a new opportunity, a new year ahead for the Bulldogs to get some excitement built and going in the right direction, and they open up the season on the road at Tarrant this Thursday night. So one of our first games of the season, one of the first opportunities to make a statement, and this was their lone win a season ago. So Andrew, in just a second, I want to hear your thoughts on this Montevallo team and what they've got coming back. But first, we got to tell you about Montevallo Main Street, who's going to be sponsoring the Bulldogs on our show this season. Whether it's Friday night lights or a quiet Saturday stroll, there's always something special happening on Montevallo Main Street. From unique shops and local dining to community traditions and small-town charm, it's the kind of place where neighbors gather and Bulldogs pride runs deep. Make downtown part of your routine before the game, after the game, and all year long. So, Andrew, give us the breakdown of this year's Montevallo team. Are they going to be able to take a step in the right direction here going into the 2025 season?
It does feel like there's more confidence internally than there was last year. There are a lot of problems with disunity going on with this team a year ago. And I feel like, and they feel like, and I feel like a lot of the problems have been sort of ironed out and that the culture is strong overall. I really do have confidence in Garrett Langer as a head coach. You look at the strengths that he was able to have as a defensive coordinator. I don't think those were able to shine as much last year. I think that he's going to be able to work a little bit more with this defense, get them in a good spot, and just really lead this team as a whole. He's a great emotional leader for this team, and I think if this team listens to the coaching staff and really prioritizes hearing those lessons and taking them onto the field, then I think this team could definitely make some leaps forward.
And one thing you look at, too, is this is a team that you go from a 1-9 season. Sometimes it's bad to be replacing a lot of talent, and they had a lot of key pieces last year that aren't going to be back this year. So maybe that's actually a positive for them going into this season and what they're going to have, because they are going to have a lot of question marks, but it's a fresh start completely across the board almost.
Absolutely. You do look at a lot of these playmakers. You got Caleb Merriweather stepping into the lead back role. Not a whole lot of experience from last year, but did have some time with this offense. He's going to be stepping into a lead back role as well. And then you got Jordan McCary coming into the quarterback position. A little bit inexperienced in the role, but he's shown a lot of signs in camp that I think he could be a good leader for this team. You look across this team, there's a lot of really good athletes. You look at Buck Ross, who's going to be dynamic both in the receiving position and in the secondary. There's a lot of really solid pieces around here. Kyler Mitchell, a great piece up front for them. I think this team has a lot of potential, and I do think that they could surprise some people down the road just because of a lot of the athletes that they have. They're just going to need to put it together, come together as a team, and make those plays both on the offensive and defensive sides in order to get this thing going. But they'll have a huge opportunity here in this opener against Tarrant.
Yeah, won this game 32-0 last year. I think we both expect more of the same this year. What's your thoughts on this game and the opportunity for a young group to gain some confidence?
Yeah, unfortunately, Tarrant not in a very good spot right now. They have a new coach coming in from the county and former Helena assistant Greg Appling, struggling to get numbers from the last I heard as well. They will be at home. But this was a team that struggled last year, and I think they're going to struggle once again this year. So I do think Montevallo is going to perform well from that regard, but I don't think that all of their performance in this game is going to be an indictment against Tarrant. I think a lot of their performance is going to be them taking that step forward from last year and being motivated to not let that 1-9 season repeat itself. I think there's going to be a lot of motivation internally within this team to kind of prove a lot of people wrong and set the tone early on from this opener against Tarrant. They're going to have to answer some questions very quickly with this team, especially with a big home opener against Sylacauga next week. That's going to really, I think, define what this team's going to look like early on. But you get a lot of things settled in this opener against Tarrant. You get that win under your belt. You get that confidence. I think that could pay dividends, especially through the rest of the season.
Yeah, the big things I've heard about Montevallo in the offseason is that internally, like you said, they are stronger. And two, they're more of a team this year. They feel like they're more of a team. They're putting in a lot of hard work. So whether the results follow or not, that's yet to be determined. But I think they're making those progressive steps. I think you're going to see that in this game against Tarrant. And I think at some point they're going to come together, they're going to gel, and they're going to surprise us at some point this season with some of the outcomes we see. So game one's a good opportunity for them to start off on a strong note with a win over Tarrant. That would get your confidence up early in the season with a lot of new faces. So we'll see if that's something Montevallo is able to do here on Thursday night to open the season. Everything seemed to come together last year for the Shelby County Wildcats under fourth-year head coach at the time, Zeb Ellison, now going into year 5, and this is a team that's got a lot of confidence, knows that they've got the ability to compete for a region championship, a historic regular season start last year, starting 5-0. They finished 8-2 before that heartbreaking 14-9 loss in the opening round of the playoffs. And Andrew, they bring back a lot of talent this year. So tell me a little bit about the makeup of this year's team as they prepare to take on Lincoln at home to open the season.
I think over the course of the offseason, this was one of the teams I was most excited about looking at because, I mean, you do lose a couple of really talented all-state level guys in Anthony Palmieri at running back and Eli Holloman over on the defense. But just overall, this team is really solid coming back. And it starts up front, an offensive line with so many key pieces back from last year. And they got even stronger because they got a guy back in Jackson Hughes who, while he grew up in Columbiana, transferred over to Thompson initially, got developed within that system, and is now coming back for his senior year. So you take a strength for this team and then make it an even bigger strength. I really do think the offensive line is going to set the tone for this team once again. And you've got a guy back in Devin Alexander who he was supposed to be the lead back last year and really impressed in this opener against Lincoln a year ago, but then went down for the season. And that's when Anthony Palmieri really got his time to shine. So with so much coming back on the offensive line and with so much talent that Alexander has, I think this is going to be another run-focused team overall, and he's going to get a lot of opportunities to shine within this offense.
What about this defense? To me, that was where this team, while they had that success offensively, they continued to run the ball well last year, strong play up front on the offensive line. The defensive improvement last year was drastic, and it's why this team was as successful as it was a season ago.
Oh, 100%. They were able to get stops consistently and make the big plays that they needed to. And you look at all three levels of this team, and it's as deep as you can possibly imagine. You're led at the linebacker position by Cooper Pennington, a multi-time all-county guy who's one of the best athletes I think that we have in this county. I think he's really able to both make the plays and lead this defense well, and show a lot of his talent on the football field on any given Friday night. But then you look back at the secondary, and this team really has some solid pieces led by Andreas McGinnis. I really do think that he is one of the best cornerbacks that we have in this county, and he's going to make a lot of plays at the defensive back position. Came up with a lot of interceptions last year. That's going to continue to be the key. I could list so many guys from this defense, and it's because they're all really, really good at each level, at the defensive line, at the linebacker, and the secondary position. So I think this team is going to bring together a lot of continuity from last year, a lot of good momentum from last year. It's now just all about not getting too confident in yourselves, continuing to put in that hard work, and proving to everybody on a Friday night basis that this is going to be one of the teams to look out for when it comes to a region championship conversation.
When the expectations are high, so you can't be too confident in a sense that you're never going to be good enough this year. After such a successful year last year, you've got to be even better. So that should be what challenges you, and that starts in game one, a game you won 57-10 last year. How do you make it better than that? I mean, that's as good as it gets, and I think we expect the same or better this year as they go to take on Lincoln at home this Friday. So, Andrew, is that your expectation again for this game?
I do expect a pretty comfortable win within this one. Obviously, it's really hard to expect a 57-10 result again, especially because of so much of what they were able to do in that game last year was by surprising teams. Like not a lot of people knew coming into that game that Shelby County was just going to run the ball all game long. I don't even think they had a passing snap from that game last year, if I remember right. But overall, they were really able to settle into that identity quickly and catch a bad team like Lincoln off guard. I do think a lot of things are going to favor them in this matchup once again, and I do think they're going to win this one comfortably. It's just maybe not fair to expect such a big result once again. But obviously, it could happen once again, and I could be surprised. Yeah. But I think for this team, wins are just going to have to be wins. Don't compare too much to last year. Go out there, take care of business every single Friday night, and let the results come as they follow.
Yeah, I think they win this one. The big things I'll be looking forward to, can they throw the football this year? And does that start in this game? And how good is the defense again? Is the defense going to be as good as it was a season ago, or at least close to that same level? If both those things come together, this is a team that not only competes for that 2 seed again, but possibly a region championship this year. So a good opportunity for the Shelby County Wildcats to once again start the season 1-0. Another impressive season last year for the Vincent Yellow Jackets and head coach Lucas Weatherford, who crazily now enters his 8th year at Vincent, which is just impressive to see the run that he's put together there. Never expected him to last that long there. Didn't know if he'd be on to another job at this point or go back to an assistant job. And to see him stick it out with Vincent and build this program into what he has been impressive. They finished 9-3 overall last year, made the second round of the playoffs, lost a heartbreaker 25-20 in round 2, and a team I know that thought they could get a little bit further than they did last year. But yet again this year, this is a team, they're going to lose some key pieces, Andrew, but a team that's going to have expectations, and that's the difference from what this program used to be to what this program is now.
This is a team that now expects to challenge for region championships and try to get into that quarterfinals, which they've never done in program history. But it's a team with a lot of belief and a lot of motivation to also get theirs, because you've got a lot of players who, just from talking to them, they're looking at that senior class who obviously accomplished so much on the football field, just won a baseball state championship as well. They want to get theirs. And they really want to prove to people on the football field that they have a lot of talent still and that they're going to be one of the teams in the conversation. Obviously, I'm very optimistic about this young class, though, just from having looked at them in their spots last year and just from seeing them just as a whole. I think this team is going to be a lot better than a lot of people expect. But I do think that that's one of the reasons why they're a top 10 team in Class 2A once again. Obviously, you lose your quarterback in Cason Fields, you lose a lineman of the year finalist in Grayson Gould, and a big playmaker in Aiden Poe, among a lot of other guys. But you look at this team from top to bottom. Landon Archer, an absolutely phenomenal athlete. If you only know him because of his pitching arm, look out, because the guy can make plays in the secondary and some incredible catches over at receiver. He'll be a great asset for them this year. You have an all-county running back in Jaden Roberts, who impressed even in the limited amount of time he was able to have last year. I think now with a little bit more consistency and confidence, he's going to take another leap this year as well. And then you have really solid linebackers there as well, and KJ Chapman, an all-county guy last year alongside Grayson Gould, and then a guy in Caden Carroll who just really seems like the next man up as well. And then you look at the quarterback position. Lane Mims is a guy who's gotten some really good spot starts over the last couple of years and has grown into a leader with this team. Well, now it's his team, and I'm really optimistic for what this team is going to be able to do overall. I think if they bond well quickly on the field, I think that they can definitely still maintain a playoff team this year, but within the next couple of years, start the challenge for that region championship.
Yeah, and this opener against Winterboro, it's a game that last year was probably a little tighter than it should have been. They win 19-6, but that defense started the season on a dominant note, and that's really been the key for this team. Kind of like we just talked about with Shelby County, that defensive improvement has been key for this team the last few years, and I expect that that's going to be another focal point this year to make sure that they're successful. Last year they win this one 19-6, a low-scoring game. What do you expect in this matchup with Winterboro this year?
Well, Winterboro is always kind of a tricky opponent for them, especially with how close these two teams are. But I do think that overall, I do like Vincent a little bit better than Winterboro, and I think they're going to take enough strides to where they'll be better in this matchup, kind of clean up some of the mistakes that they had in this one a year ago, and then put their best foot forward to really show their potential in this one ahead of a big game next week against BB Comer. I think this team starts to set the tone in this game and wins a little bit more comfortably than they did last year.
And we just need to see consistency, too, because I think one of their biggest struggles last year, at times the defense would be dominant, and then they would struggle a little bit the next game. At times the offense would be dominant, and then they would struggle. So putting that all together on both sides of the ball consistently from the start of the season to the end of the season, injuries play into that. Right. That's a big part of it. But having that consistency on both sides of the ball is going to be something that's key as well this year. But the defense should come out and play a strong game in this one, be able to do a lot of what they want to do early in the season, which will allow the offense to ease into the season, which is typically the case in Game 1. So we both expect a Vincent win here as they open the season against Winterboro. Like you said, a big game coming up in week 2 as well. So some early season action here for the Vincent Yellow Jackets as they look to continue that trend of success and competing for region championships. Now we jump into our AISA and ACSC breakdown for this week, and we've got all 3 of our teams in action. The Evangel Lightning already kicked off the season this past week. We'll tell you a little bit about them, but we're going to start with Cornerstone and Coosa Valley in the AISA. Andrew, let's start with Cornerstone. They hit the road to take on Southern Prep in this season opener. The Chargers, yet again, state champions in the AISA 8-man level of play. What do you expect from the Chargers going into the season and in the season opener at Southern Prep?
Well, it's a team that enters the year with a lot of questions. You lose a massive senior class that, while Zeke Adams was obviously the headliner of that and the big two-way playmaker, he was definitely not the only big playmaker that they're losing. One of their lead receivers and defensive backs in Noah Schober, a couple of other really good guys like Hampton Etheridge. This team is really going to be reloading in a lot of different aspects. But I think you look overall at this team, and it's kind of a similar situation to Vincent in that these were the guys who got a lot of experience underneath these guys. Last year, they learned a lot from the senior class, and in Cornerstone's case, they got a lot of game experience in the second half of games when they started to open up some of their leads. So I think this team is going to be in a little bit of a better spot than I think many people expect. But still, a few question marks to be had, particularly at the quarterback position, because they have a really good passer and a really good runner. So we'll have to see how they really mix those to kind of not give away signals, but also replace a lot of that productiveness that was left with Zeke Adams. I do think that the culture here is very strong, and I like what I've seen out of the athletes to this point, guys like T.C. Sanders and Colin Keefe as well. So I do like this team enough to get the win early on and start to establish that tone from last year.
Yeah, good opportunity for them to ease a lot of those new players into action this week. Quarterback obviously going to be key. Zeke Adams was a Swiss Army knife. He did just about everything, and so finding that replacement is going to be impossible, basically.
Right.
But they're going to have some players that still step up and make big-time plays. So a good opportunity for Cornerstone to get off to a strong start. Same for Coosa Valley. We saw some progressive steps last year in the right direction. It took a little bit of time, but we finally got there. Now Reese Donahue steps in as the head coach, taking over for Vince DiLorenzo, who will still be on the staff as an assistant. But the Rebels, they traveled to take on Springwood, which was a solid team last year. So what's the expectation here for Coosa Valley?
Well, Springwood's always just a really good team at the AISA level, so this is one of the more difficult openers that you could have. And obviously, Coosa Valley's still working to build that program up, both from a numbers perspective and from a talent perspective. But I do think they have the right guy in charge in Reese Donahue. He's really seemed to capture a lot of that younger generation, and he's been a really good fresh voice for this team. Obviously, he had a lot of talented guys that took them very deep into the baseball semifinals in the AISA a year ago. And I think this team is overall going to take some steps compared to last year, just because they've got a lot of continuity from last year. Obviously, a team that only won 3 games last year against a weaker schedule than they have this year. But you look across the board. In past years, they were playing with guys who was maybe their first or second year playing football. Now they have some guys with some experience back, and as long as they stay healthy, I think guys like Jake MacArthur are going to make some big plays for this team this year. Like I said earlier, I do think Springwood gets this one, but I think that Coosa Valley is going to be looking for some improvements on the field in this game, something that they can take into the weeks to come.
Yeah, just a tough opening season matchup to take on Springwood, but I do think Coosa Valley continues to take the steps in the right direction. I've heard a lot of good things about Donahue. I think he's going to do a good job here for the Rebels this year. The Evangel Lightning, they kick off the season with a tough loss, 26-24, as they head up to Gatlinburg last week and lose to Arundel. Tough loss for them to start the season, a 2-point conversion there that seals their fate in that one. But this week, another opportunity against a good team in Chattanooga, coming home to take on Chattanooga this week as they get a home matchup for the Lightning. So tell us what to expect from this matchup.
Yeah, I think overall this is an Evangel team still looking to find themselves overall. I did watch this matchup on Saturday night, and it was a good game overall. They challenged themselves with a really good team out of North Carolina in Arundel Parrott. And while they gave up some big plays on the defensive side, particularly from their really good running back that they had, it was a team that I think they stacked up to very well. And I think they're going to use a lot of the lessons they learned from that game to take into a very challenging non-conference schedule, and then use that to set the tone going into ACSC play. The one thing I will say is Eli Black is an absolute player on both ends of the field. Heard his name a little bit last year at the linebacker position, and he absolutely shot the gap in a lot of big plays last year and on Saturday night. But his leadership at the quarterback position was very impressive to me. They kind of set the tone on the ground with both him and Isaac Griffith. And while the pass game was a little bit shakier, when he did come up with those big plays to Ben Davis and Trey Hope, they were absolutely right on the money, including a big 30-yard bomb within the second half that I thought really showcased a lot of what this team is capable of. This is a Chattanooga team that was a step below Arendelle last year, and while it seems like they're a little bit improved, I do think that Evangel is on another level compared to them right now, and will use a lot of the lessons that they took on a matchup that they were so close to winning, just came a 2-point conversion short in this one on Saturday night. I do think that Evangel is going to use that experience to get a big win heading into their first bye week of the season. I like Evangel to get back to 500 on the year.
Yeah, I think they should pick up a win this week. Get that experience under their belt now. Should bounce back this week. So a great opportunity for them to get win 1, improve to 1-1 on the season, and for Coosa Valley and Cornerstone, their opportunities to get better and possibly start the season 1-0 as well. That brings our Week 1 show to an end. A lot of excitement, a lot of build-up, and we did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. Our bold predictions return for the 2025 season. So, Andrew, I'm going to turn to you first and see what your bold prediction is for Week 1 of the high school football season.
So for week 1 of the season, I really do believe a lot of these teams are going to make some statement-setting wins in this one, but my bold prediction is that the county goes undefeated.
Oh, wow, man.
I think
starting with fire, that's almost as hot as it is out here right now.
I think there's a lot of really good matchups, a lot of ones that these teams are going to be favored in this week. I think the Pelham Pell City one is going to be a tough one. I think the Calera Northridge one is a little bit of a tougher game to call this year. But I think both of those teams have made enough improvements from last year that I feel confident in picking them in this one. Obviously, could go either way. I know I picked Pell City earlier in the show, but you look at the slate from top to bottom, and I think that this is going to favor a lot of our teams, definitely at the 11-man level in these matchups.
Yeah, I think we'll end up with a couple of losses. Obviously, take Briarwood, Oak Mountain out of the scenario right there. But I do think we'll have a couple of losses this week, so I can't go that extreme. So my bold prediction not going to be as fun. But I think Pelham starts the season with a win over Pell City. That's my big bold prediction. I really do think that they've improved. They got the right buy-in. There's a lot of excitement around the program. I liked Dylan Smith a lot last year at the quarterback position, just seeing the moments where he could make those explosive plays. So if they've got a lot of pieces around him, which they definitely do at receiver, if that offensive line steps up and plays well, this could be a team that starts the season with a statement win. So that's my bold prediction, is the Pelham Panthers walk away victorious. Andrew, closing thoughts as we head into the opening night on Thursday night, 2 games there, and then a big action-packed night Friday night as well.
I'm just so excited for our team this year. I really do think that we're gonna be able to deliver a lot of really good coverage for y'all this year. We got 3 new writers who will be dedicated to covering football with us, and Dave Domestic, Tyler Rayleigh, and Daniel Locke. We got a lot of really great initiatives like the Red Zone that Tyler is hosting on a weekly basis. The podcast is finally on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and wherever you'll get your podcasts as well. This is going to be a really fun season overall. A mixture of a lot of really good teams and a lot of fun stuff happening for us on a coverage perspective really makes me super excited to get this thing rolling on Thursday night.
Yeah, we've got, like you said, the Red Zone with Tyler Rayleigh has kicked off. We've got some fun coming up this week with that. Both of them should already be out, but we'll have Garrett Witherington from Briarwood on. We'll have Marty Myrick's from Oak Mountain on, looking ahead to our game of the week this week. So that's going to be fun. We'll have our coverage on Friday nights on Twitter, Facebook, social media, everywhere you can get it. And then obviously our stories, photos posted on Friday nights as well, or after the games if it's a Thursday night as well. And then our recap videos coming back this year as well. Wayne's Pest Control going to be sponsoring those as well, so we're excited about that opportunity. So just from top to bottom, our coverage is going to be as extensive as it's ever been, and we're going to have fun with it, which is what we love to do. We know the work that's poured in all off-season and all season by all these players, and the communities love to support their programs. We're here to just be an extension of that. So very excited. We got new microphones. We got a lot of new equipment coming. We're going to have some fun this year. It's going to be a fun ride. Our Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, wherever we are nowadays, we'll be back this Thursday night with our Thursday night games at Thompson High School. We'll be previewing that one in Montevallo, and then again on Friday as well for the big opening Friday night of the high school football season. So we're going to have some fun this season, and it all kicks off this week, week 1 of the 2025 high school football season.